September 1994, Southern Africa experienced an unprecedented rash of UFO sightings. The UFO flaps beginning would be marked with a breathtaking display of nighttime lights that, at the time, astronomers attributed to a meteor shower. The media was then treated to a number of other unexplainable sightings that occurred in the following days. A trucker reported seeing strange beings crossing the road in front of him. A mother and her son reported seeing an unusual visitor during daylight hours. Then, 2 days later, UFO investigator Cynthia Hind would receive a call about a mass sighting by a group of students at a local private school. An event that, to this day, has affected the lives of those involved, even as adults. This case file, the theorists head down Africa way to Harare, Zimbabwe for the Ariel School UFO encounter.
Welcome to Alien Theorists Theorizing, Case File 203, the Zimbabwe Encounter. UFO Encounter, Ariel School.
There's a lot of names involved, so Braden's
Phenomena. 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 I'm Braden.
I'm Zell.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Andrew.
It says the case file title right on the screen every time we record.
Where?
Where? It's on the video.
It's not on my screen.
Oh.
It's on the video, it's on the meme that we released today.
I just look at this big picture of my own face on here. Isn't that what you guys do? You don't admire your own YouTube faces, the Skype faces? That's all I do.
I make sure mine's blocked though.
I minimize your guys's buds. Cheers, Brady.
Braden's got his own live stream separately of the show. It's just him.
Yeah, I crop you guys out.
He's got his own YouTube channel.
Perfect example is that Braden's making some fantastic conversation starter memes that he's sending the group to get approval for everybody. And like he's got pictures of all four of us on them. And for me, Dan, and Zell, he pulls off these generic pictures off our website, and then his face is like fucking full costume, fake fucking glasses on, wig and everything. It's like, oh yeah.
Wig.
Yeah, wig.
Talking about wig.
Talking about wig.
That was my hair. Well,
Hey, look at me, I'm Braden.
that's how I'm gonna introduce the show. Hey everybody, it's me again. Listen to my voice. It's Braden. There's a guy on our Patreon that literally everything we do recently, and every post, he just goes, Braden just likes to hear himself talk. Amen, brother. Amen.
Who doesn't?
Amen.
And buddy, the sooner you just embrace it, the happier you'll be. It's just him. That's the way it is. It's all good.
I mean, you guys, before you submit your audio to Zell, you just listen back to your own voice, right, for the full 2 hours, right?
I can't even listen to this podcast. I listen to my own voice now.
Right, yeah, I can count the times that I've actually gone back and re-listened to a podcast on one hand.
Every episode.
Well, it's sucks, dude.
I used to listen to a lot early on.
For you, comma, anytime, exclamation point. How has work been, question mark.
Years to get years. It was all uphill to 290. And we're coasting into 400. We're riding this ship right into the ground. Anyways, tonight we're talking about the Zimbabwe UFO. What do we call it, Zell?
The aerial UFO sighting.
Aerial UFO sighting.
Like Ariel's.
But it landed.
Well, according to which kids you talk to.
Ben's.
I guess so.
This one's a bit,
interesting.
yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Dan.
I'd say this
This
just
is
was
your
a little
turn
bit
for
of a
your
deep
voice.
cut.
I wasn't quite done yet, but
I'm sure we could all go on and listen to Braden talk for another, 45 minutes or so, and then actually get to the case file. But
I had a couple of anecdotes I wanted, but it's fine.
Just 2 pages of notes.
It's some new bits I was gonna work out, but yeah, it's all good. Go ahead.
Hey. Well, I don't know. I mean, if we're gonna get to the case file, are we gonna get to the case file? Right?
Dan, get us to the case file, brother.
All right, take it to the bridge. September 16th, 1994. This one's a bit of a deep cut. I would say I have heard about this one before. People asked us to cover this one. People have mentioned this one, and I know I had heard of it before. It made it onto the TV show Sightings. If anybody remembers that 90s, like early 2000s TV show in the United States, I used to watch it all the time. And I think I remember seeing clips from this. Some of the most memorable parts of this case that people refer to is the fact that it was a number of, it wasn't just a single person seeing this sighting. This was an entire group of children aged from 6 to 12. It was during their mid-morning break at the Ariel School. That's why I always call it the Ariel sighting, which is a...
Makes more sense.
It just clicked for him.
which is
Ariel
a private
School.
elementary school in the Harare province of Zimbabwe.
Nice.
So that's why they call it the Ariel phenomenon, or it has a couple names.
It's not because the mermaid saw it? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
No,
That's what this is about? Okay. That's right.
no talking crabs in this one, unfortunately.
That's fucking lame.
I know. During their mid-morning break, all of the
On my way to
adult
work.
faculty of the school were actually inside having a staff meeting, so none of them actually witnessed what the children reported seeing.
Wow, instead of recording what I just said to you, it recorded my podcast, LMFAO. What I meant to tell you is that I'm on my way to work.
And then 62 of the children were reported to have seen something.
See, I had read that with the 200 that included some adults and teachers as well. Like that 200 number was including like faculty, staff.
So there was 200 people there, but only up to 60 were just kids. Like I think
Kids.
there was a lady running a candy cart outside, but she didn't see it either. Like that was the only other adult that was outside.
Right, she was
Yeah.
the lady you're referring to was running the snack cart kind of outside. I know Braden probably remembers, like, or maybe not Braden, but I remember working in places like in foreign schools, and it's like you have like these ladies that just run like kind of snack carts and stuff during lunch times
Dude, that's
in the canteen areas. So she was one of the first adults to actually hear from the children about something they had seen. So somewhere
And she wasn't having any of it.
no.
She was like, "You just want to steal my candy, children. Like, get the hell out of here. I'm not falling for this." They're all crying.
What she heard from the children was that somewhere between 1 and several silver balls or objects.
That's good. I'm glad. When you told me how much you worked, I was actually worried about you a little bit. As for my job, things are going pretty good. My workload has decreased a lot, almost to the point where it's getting a little boring, but it is what it is.
Or some of them actually described seeing small grays, the descriptions that they had, and later they were asked to draw what they had seen.
Until
during the
one of them
encounter.
started moonwalking.
Quick Michael Jackson.
I think, there was also some reference to some similarities to Michael Jackson. And these beings were reported either standing atop the craft or beside it, and then actually a couple of the children described actually seeing and encountering one of these beings, like very close encounter. And there is some report that some of the children received telepathic communications from the alien or one of the beings that was out in front of the ship, and that the didn't remember anything about this being speaking, but it gave them a very specific message or a very, actually like a type of intent they felt coming from this.
The other thing that struck me is like at this point in time, a lot of kids described that like they were scared and they were looking into this thing's eyes. And a lot of them described these big eyes, but they couldn't seemingly like look or run. They were like frozen in fear, but also like receiving this message, which makes me think that maybe they were in some sort of trance from this thing. Some Professor X stuff going on.
Well, this is a private school, isn't it?
Yep.
We know what type of private school. This will be
Looking
for the,
good.
for the gifted.
So
For gifted youngsters.
Looking good.
At least financially.
I remember
It's harder to respond on the fucking watch than it is on the goddamn
She
phone.
saw like she said the kids looked like a snake. They were all sprinting back into the building all together. She's like, if we would have practiced the fire, it wouldn't have gone so good. Right? So they definitely did run away at some point.
I think after this thing leaves, that's when they run. And initially, you know, because this thing landed in the bushes, and for, you know, everything I looked into, there was like an area of the school. This was a little bit off limits.
Well, I'm happy you're spending less time at work. I feel you though, because sometimes when I have extra days off, I don't even know what to do with myself. I'm so used to working. But yeah, I'm still working at night. That was one of my demands, that I never get transferred to day shift.
The stories they hear about his kids is total shit.
The Tokolosh are taking the form of Michael Jackson.
He's come to touch us.
Why is he moonwalking with a Pepsi?
Easy. Hey, this would have been around. When was the Pepsi accident? 94.
Early 90s.
Early 90s? Either way.
This happened in 94.
This was 94. This
No wonder nobody fucking heard about the story. This is right in the middle of the fucking white fucking Bronco OJ shit. Like this, of course nobody heard about this. This is sick. Yeah, nobody's heard shit about this. I don't know. Is OJ? Did he do it? Does the glove
don't
fit? Does the glove
You
fit?
must have quit.
Yeah, now if you're not watching the live stream,
I'm in charge of all projects and repairs. I'm basically a glorified handyman. Anytime something breaks, I fix it. Anytime something needs to be ordered, I order it. And other than that, I just walk the store and see if anything needs to be touched up. And that's about it.
Someone said they remember running from the playground to go see what everybody was looking at.
yeah. So it says it's about 60 to 200 kids. So some of the kids were down kind of on these paths, and I guess that would make sense why not every kid was kind of focused on the same spot. That when I first read it, I was like, if they're all outside, I didn't more see, but I guess it's a pretty big area.
If you think about like elementary schools, that I'm trying to like, I thought about that the same thing. Like, of all the elementary schools I went to as a kid, there was like multiple areas around the school. So it's like if that thing would have landed on like top field and lower field, or like what I mean. There was other areas where I wouldn't have seen because I was playing. What's a wall ball or whatever it's called? What's it called?
Booty.
Booty. That's right. Booty.
Booty or
Right,
Foursquare?
Booty.
Booty was the
Foursquare, yeah, that's a good one, right? So there, and like maybe it was up in near the woods there. But to me, I was like, okay, well that makes sense. Like not every kid would, because they're obviously spread out on this field and in this area, the playground. So only the ones that are nearby.
Well, that was the reason for the whole change. We couldn't find people who wanted to work graveyard, so they outsourced and contracted a maintenance team. So then they gave me my new position.
We got stuff we gotta do today. we got time to talk about, how far Michael Jackson's jumped out and across there. So
I mean, I'm gonna go ahead and assume these teachers aren't overly concerned to just let so there's 200 kids in the school, and one candy lady just like, yeah, kids, fuck off, do your thing, have fun, watch out for the lions, not a big deal, don't pet them. We're gonna have a fucking meeting, which means we're probably having drinks in the fucking teachers' lounge. Don't bug us, don't knock on the fucking door.
Hey man,
Do your thing.
in a teacher's fucking work. And the last thing I would want to do in that 15-minute break is go up and punch the kids. Like, I hope something goes.
Well, you gotta have something that should be our supervisors, right? You've got those ladies wearing the fucking high vis vests walking around.
Oh
like some of these
shit! Oh shit!
volunteers.
There was
There's gotta be something.
in high school. Little segue.
Stupid fucking people.
Everyone in our school called her Mad Dog.
Mad Dog.
Like, legit, we called her Mad Dog to her face. She was Mad Dog. And so she was like
she probably loved it. She probably lived for that shit.
oh, she was grumpy. She was a grumpy supervisor out of high school. But that's my little segue.
Mad Dog.
Hope you're doing good, Mad Dog.
Some of the kids actually reported that they didn't really feel like the full impact of what had occurred, or they didn't really realize the significance of what they had seen. Some of them were still kind of in the stages of just excitement and whatever until they got home, and until they got home, they started telling their parents, and the parents realizing that their children were physically upset about something they had seen. They started calling the school and asking them why their kids were so upset, what had they seen, and what had happened. So this got the teachers up into excited about what was going on, and so now the teachers started to kind of freak out as well. And then, in order to either placate the parents or in an effort to kind of figure out what had gone on.
Oh man, let me tell you, when they first started off, they were lazy. Like it was bad. So, upper management told me to just do what I used to do for one night to show them how they expect things to be done. And ever since then, they've been slowly getting better and better. It's funny, I literally never speak to them. LOL.
I couldn't imagine the shit we used to get up to, man. You had no supervisors walking around, busting your ass. Like, that would be chaos.
Yeah, it'd be pandemic.
So, Hind, who has since passed away in 2000, had publicly announced her experiences with otherworldly beings. So she had experiences with UFOs and in the past, and she kind of became dedicated to, after her experiences, to investigating UFO sightings in Africa, where she lived, on the African continent, in the area that she was living. So Harare and Ariel, like the Ariel school, were not that far from her. So she was, happy to kind of, when the story actually took to the, I think it actually got picked up by the BBC news service in the area, and
It was ZBC.
ZBC.
It was.
So, yeah, right. And then when they got a hold of it, I think
I felt like that was a
Tim
sarcastic.
Leach.
Yeah, right.
No, I believe you. I just remember BBC and ZBC. Yeah.
I didn't believe you, but I believe you now.
And I think Tim Leach was the main correspondent on it. And Tim Leach put out a call, mainly anybody who had experience in the area, had seen anything, it had information on a UFO. And so she was happy to kind of call in and say she children about the ones who had seen something. So she
Tim
got out
Leach.
there.
Tim Leach is like a legitimate fucking journalist, right?
Yes.
Like, dudes went like covered actual like war zones and shit like that. Like, this isn't like they're bringing out the big guns for us.
Yeah, I mean, it was legitimate news. It was something that happened in Zimbabwe, and it made a splash.
So stop reporting on OJ for a second to fucking do something else. It's
Well,
okay.
and I think this story definitely has an air when you start to hear it about, because there's so many kids involved saying this, that you're like, immediately you're kind of like, well, I should be able to get to the bottom of this fairly quickly because it's children. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I should be able to break down with some of these hooligans who are trying to make a funny of everyone here. Right?
And go ahead.
Oh, that's all I was gonna say.
And I think the story got a bit of a boost, or kind of was able to take a lot of notice because it was right on the heels of there was a very large and or at least a very prominent meteor shower that had taken place 2 days before the children had their encounter, and it almost kicked off Zimbabwe's own little UFO mania, because you had people calling in and reporting different reports. Like, there were actual UFO reports of people seeing like certain things that large meteors, fireballs traveling through the sky, and so a lot of them, like, UFO was on the mind. It was in the zeitgeist. So
I was reading something that they said that like 3 nights before this incident, 2 airline pilots logged reports stating that they saw an orange glowing orb outside their left wing, and this was over Zimbabwe.
right, and then I think there was another report of some other people seeing some type of, or it might have actually been one of the children who reported that they had sighted some type of cigar-shaped object in the air on their way to school.
Yeah, just like there's driving in a pickup, and they see the cigar-shaped UFO just on the horizon. So like multiple events leading up just before this mass sighting of the school.
So Pine goes in and she interviews a number of the children, and ends up like publishing some of the testimonies in her kind of newsletter of the day, and she wrote on kind of like the context of the situation.
Fucking
So
alignment.
Ariel School itself represents a large cross section of the actual, like, the back then in the 90s. It's changed. The demographics have changed and shifted a lot since then. Kind of reading up on that area for this case flushing. So Ariel School itself represents a large cross section of the actual, like, the back then in the 90s. It's changed.
Yeah, that's exactly what was happening. But it's all good. Honestly, I kind of miss doing what I used to do. It kept me busy. It was a lot of manual labor, but now it's just kickback work. So what else has been going on with you? Question mark. Other than work, I mean. Don't do it, car. Don't do it, car. Don't do it. Don't do it. See what they're saying on it, but don't do it. Watch, you're gonna choose this lane. There you go. nice. I totally forgot me and you were the only ones left on the planet without kids still. LOL. Bowling sounds like fun. Although I have to admit that's one of the very few sports, if you want to call it that, I'm terrible at. As for this weekend, I have no plans. My days off this week are Wednesday and Thursday per usual. So I'll be at work. I have been thinking about changing my schedule though. What are you going to do this weekend? Question mark.
Physical, extra dimensional, there's still room to hypothesize, and it brooks farther study. That was his kind of stance on the whole thing. So he was able to get Hein got in contact with him somehow, and he brought him in to come in and interview these children, use his experiences, which he had a long experience with interviewing people with I think some of his specialties were interviewing. I think he was like a suicide. I think kind of
psychiatrist
and things like psychotherapy and things like that. So he was going to come in, interview these children about what they had seen, and try to glean more information about whether or not these children had actually really seen something. And he came in, and there are videos of him. They took videos of his interviews with many of these children, and you see him talking to these children, and they give him answers about
LMFAO, I just realized I'm so dumb. You literally just told me what you were doing this weekend. My bad. In my defense, I was driving to work. And I'm using talk to text on my watch, so it's hard for me to read the texts. But I'm at work now. So I'm good.